So, hello and welcome, and good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, or good night, wherever you are, whenever you're watching this just now, on Saturday morning, or whenever in the future. So, this is the 10th session in our studies of Karma Chamé's union of Mahamudra and Dzogchen in the practice of Avalokiteshvara Chenrezig. So this is as good as it gets. So having this wonderful opportunity to be together and study this most profound and meaningful of texts, let's start by really putting our mind in its very, very best. You know, it's like when people go to special occasions, a garden party at Buckingham Palace, or when you go to your friend's wedding, you know, people dress up, they put on their best clothes, they clean themselves up. It's kind of a special occasion. So let's clean up our mind, put on your mind's best clothes, find your most loving, kind, spacious, open disposition. Go to your best to receive these teachings. We take refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, and in the community of most noble minds. From this moment on until we reach the very heart of enlightenment. Through our practice of generosity and all 6 transcendent virtues, paramitas, may we reach total awakening and every enlightened quality to be able to truly help sentient beings so lost in their samsaras. May each and every one of those beings be well. May they live long and be healthy, be well provided for. May they have good friends and find respect. May they live in places of peace, places of plenty, and most of all, may they practice Dharma. May they each create the causes for these good circumstances to be their wealth in future lives. May they be freed from suffering and from creating causes of future suffering. May they discover the natural and sacred well-being totally beyond suffering and attain the great equanimity, free of closeness or distance from anyone. Deyata shame shamavati shameta shadru kurimam kurimarajite karota keorite jovati oloyane beshuda nemale malapana ye kukure kaka grase grasana o muki paramuki amuki shamedawane sawa graha bandhanane negritva sawa bhava pravadena vimuktamara pasha Savidva Buddhamudra Annutgatita Savamare Buttarita Parishuddhe Biga Shantu Savamara Kamane. Glorious Guru, source of all blessing, ever present above our heads on lotus and moonseed, through your immense kindness, ever sustain us, that the accomplishments of body, speech, and mind flow from you, and we are one. We are in this Tibetan Shastra from Karma Chamé Rinpoche, very, very great master. And The text itself is in 8 songs or 8 sections, and we're in the 3rd section about, well, in the title it says impermanence and karma, cause and effect. But actually we're in, under those 2 headings, we're in the 3 great meditations: impermanence, karma, cause and effect, and suffering. So we're going today to plunge into quite a lot of words, verses, and I think I want to start by, how can you say, getting a global picture. When we study and when we practice, then impermanence is something we study. We can do it at length for many months with different topics and so on. It's also a topic on which we meditate. We have practices, and the same with karma, cause and effect, and suffering of the 6 realms and so on. They're separate, but in reality, they are not at all separate. And in reality, the whole thing, all the Buddha's teaching is about karma, cause and effect. We must never forget that. There's so many teachings, thousands, literally thousands of different teachings. But the whole point is about karma. And we need to understand that. You probably know the word karma means action, deeds, or activity. And it refers to what's really going on. I mean, what is real, what is really going on. If it's around us, if it's nature, it's the seasons, it's reality as we perceive it, then it's activity. The word means activity. If it's sentient beings, it means actions, what we do. But it's the real thing. Whatever we think about it, however we relate to it, however we interpret it, it's what's really happening. For you and for me, it's your world and my world, second after second. There's only that. Impermanence doesn't exist in its own right. Impermanence is the way we see what is actually happening, changing all the time. So we say, it's changing. Now, I don't know if this is going to make sense. It's Ken rabbiting on. It's Ken, before we go into the text, which is probably what you're waiting for, but I'm not going to get into it straight away. There's something I'd like to share, which may or may not click. And I'd like to take a modern example. Do you know, please put a hand up if you do, the idea of built-in obsolescence? Right? You buy a washing machine, but it's only designed to last, 7 years or whatever it is. Things are designed from the start to only last a certain time, to go wrong, right? It's called built-in obsolescence. It's not like when I was a boy, hundreds of years ago, and when things were built to last. You bought something that was going to last you a lifetime or last a long, long time. The idea is that things break, unusable, so you buy a new one. So, right, you've got the idea built-in obsolescence, right? At the factory where they make whatever it is, washing machine, do they have barrels of obsolescence that they put into the machine? Like, here you are, we've made a washing machine, now we're building, let's take one obsolescence unit. Do they? No, of course not. They just make one component or another component, poor quality, so the whole thing breaks, and it's not worth repairing, it's too expensive, it's cheaper to buy a new one, whatever. Obsolescence is not a something they build in. It's in the nature of the machine itself and its components. Impermanence isn't something that's there so that however well you meditate or however wise you are, even if you're Buddha, you can't bring along and say, here you are, I've got a cup full of impermanence. It's not something that is there. Impermanence is just the way the actual stuff of life is. From our point of view, from a sentient mind's point of view, it doesn't last. We saw before the word impermanence actually means non-lastingness. So in our movie, in our film of reality, in our experience, things change, but there's no such thing as impermanence itself. It's the way things, we call them things. The Sanskrit word for things is dharma. Dharma is the way dharmas, things, phenomena, only last a certain time. And then each thing has its own lastingness. It's like in your washing machine with built-in obsolescence. Maybe the stainless steel drum is going to last for 80 years before it's finished. And maybe one bit of electronics that controls it all is only designed to last 5 years. Things, dharma, realities we experience only last a certain time, but each one lasts its own time. So, school, for instance, if we look at your school experience, and then you probably went to several schools, primary school, secondary school. In Asia, they have lower secondary, upper secondary, and you have that karma to be with those people, to be in, those stinky classrooms, all the rest, the smell of a lack of oxygen and sweaty children's bodies and so on. It lasts as long as it lasts. Maybe you went to university or college, and then you had 3 years where you were free from school and you're almost adult, and it had its own complete feel. It started, you were introduced to it, you were a freshman, what they call a freshman, first year, and you sort of discover it. Second year, you get used to it. Third year, you've got the exam. Then it's finished. You've got to go and find a job or something like that. Each reality. Maybe you had romantic adventures. Maybe some of them only lasted 1 day, but you'll never forget that person. That person left an imprint in you. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. You'll never forget. Real things, people in your life, health in your life, wealth in your life. They're the real realities, karma, created by causes, happening now and then finished. So they start, they endure, they finished. So from our point of view, they don't last. They're impermanent. But impermanence is not another thing. It's just our way of saying none of it lasts. All of it is changing all the time. But the reality is karma. It's because of what we did in past lives that we're experiencing the current activity mainly with our 5 senses, 5 sense consciousnesses. It's changing moment by moment. And then when we look at that reality, the karmic consequences, that's your life and nobody else's life. Nobody has your life, only you. And it's changing. When we look at that, we see that there's happiness. Some things are delightful times, enjoyable, and others hurt. They hurt terribly, and all sorts of shades in between. So there's happiness and suffering. And when we look at that, as we will do today, there's the 6 realms of existence where there are the extremes of happiness and suffering and the in-betweens. So suffering, which is also what the Buddha's teaching focuses on, is not real. It's like impermanence. It's how we experience. Now, if you've got a neighbor who likes really horrible, from your point of view, music, and maybe the music you like from their point of view is really horrible. What's happiness for them? My next door neighbor here, when he was younger, was a drummer, right? You've no idea what Saturdays was like all day long when your neighbor is a drummer in a heavy rock group, right? So fortunately he grew up for me, but he was having a really good time. His happiness, my suffering. We had a guy in Samiling, I've often told you about him, Chris, beautiful man. He was an academic, successful academic, published books. He was an expert on Wittgenstein and Buddhism and so on. He got MS, multiple sclerosis, came to Samiling to end his days. And he would say to me, quite advanced, he could barely speak. You had to really listen to understand what he was saying. He was very handicapped. He would say, you know, Ken, this illness is the best thing that ever happened to me. And his mind was shining like a jewel. He said, I might have just carried on doing all that stuff, a career and so on. But it opened his mind to meditation, and he went a long way. You went in there to help him physically, and you came out kind of inspired. So normally MS is suffering, but for him, it was what had awakened his life. So there is no such thing as suffering. This has to be suffering. It's in the way we experience it and interpret it. So the topic of happiness and suffering and the suffering of samsara is all about what's happening, what's really happening. Karma, cause and effect. Impermanence is about karma, cause and effect. Suffering and happiness is about karma, cause and effect. And then sometime in all that story of really happening, of rebirth and more rebirth because of karma, there's a window of opportunity we call a precious human existence, when everything's there. Everything is there to awaken our mind to its truth, to the beauty, the love, the clarity, the wisdom, the power to help others that's in you and that's in me. So because of the power of karma, cause and effect, that's there, we talk about a precious human existence. But all of this is interpretation of karma, what is actually happening, activity. Anyway, I wanted to say that because we had a chapter on precious human existence. Now we're in the chapter on impermanence, and we're just sort of moving out of the section of verses about impermanence and change into the ones on karma, cause and effect. But I wanted to say they kind of all fit together. They're not separate topics. You're looking at the same thing. Karma, the play of apparent reality. So now if we move on to the next verse, which on my printout is on page 15, it says there are 400 kinds of sickness, 8,000 types of obstacles, and I know we did that one. Yeah, we did that last time. So today we move on to the next one, which carries on from those 400 kinds of sickness, 8,000 types of obstacles. It says, so now when medicines, protections, and healing rites no longer work, there will come the day when the ailing person is now a corpse. Just like the sun reaching the hilltop where it sets, the day will inevitably come when death can no longer be postponed. Many may be relatives and attendants, but there's no power to take them along. The day will come when one must depart alone. One's wealth may be great, but there is not the power even to take a day's supplies. This is wealth. It's what's in your cupboard. It's what's in your wardrobe. It's what you've got. It's not just money. And the day will come when you must leave empty-handed, roaming aimlessly alone through unpredictable landscapes. That time will come where there's no telling where one goes next. Pain and agony may be great, but there will be no way to share it. There will come that time when you will undergo such difficulties. So now we're looking at the key point, in a way, of impermanence, which is death. And so we all know it technically, but we tend to shut it out. And people don't like to think about death. They don't like to factor it in as a very real part of life. They don't like to think of death as just another death in a whole sequence of lives programmed by our karma. Even if we're Buddhists and we know a lot about karma and reincarnation and 6 realms and all blah, 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 we're not talking about what you know up there, but how you're living your life. Day after day, hour after hour, you live as though you're eternal. People do. Buddhists do. You expect there'll be a tomorrow. One text, very famous text, says, no one knows what comes next, tomorrow or the next life. Tomorrow in this life, or bye-bye this life, the next life. We have an amazing power of denial. Despite decades of Buddhist teachings, we still carry on. Now, there's lots of reasons for that. I think we've done them in so many teachings, but this brain of ours, where we've got all of our, or so much of our conditioning, it started from when we were a baby. There's always been a tomorrow. There's always been a future. And when you're a little kid, when so much of your programming, your character was formed, the future's infinite. Even a 10-year-old looks old when you're 5, let alone a 15-year-old and adults doing what they do as their world. It's not your world. There's always been a long future. So by the time you get to 50, you've had 50 years of having, there's always a future. And it carries on. You go to sleep, you wake up, there's tomorrow. You don't wake up in the Buddhist sense of realizing this life's just another life in a whole series of lives. So we are in a state of amazing denial about death and what comes next. And the whole point is to become intelligent, sensible, and to look after not just this life, but look after all our future lives, to invest sensibly for the next time round and the next time round. You're quite good at it. I mean, we're good people. If we're here, we're good people. And if we're here, we've got good karma from before. We've done it. Problem is we're using it up. This is like the annual holiday. You're away for 2 weeks and the good times, and you kind of relax, but then that's it. You've used it up until next year. This is the good times because of the wonderful things we did in past lives. Beautiful to have such good karma, such blessings, such wisdom in our life, and to have a heart that's open. But we think we'll be like this forever, and it doesn't work like that. This is a very, very precious human opportunity. That's what it is. So now this verse is about what happens when you die. If you're an ordinary person. But it's also about what happens before you die if you're a Buddhist and you disentangle yourself from your stupidity and attachments and you realize what's going on. And then you understand that this play of karma is mainly sensorial. We see all the time. Just now you're seeing, you're hearing my voice, and smelling, tasting, touching. And then you're processing ideas, but ideas are based on what your senses have experienced. If I say a flower, it's only because you've seen a flower, smelt a flower, planted flowers, that you know what the hell I'm talking about. Your senses. We're talking most of the time about our senses. And we're very busy with them all the time. This text is about union of Mahamudra, Mahasandhi through Chinrezig practice. So if you're doing, which would be the ideal case, Mahamudra, Mahasandhi, Dzogchen, then through meditation, you will have disintoxicated your mind being pulled all the time into your sensorial world and your fantasy imagination world about your 5 senses. And what happens in the imagination when we're thinking about the future, thinking about the past? We are reproducing or fantasizing sights, sounds, experiences of the 5 senses. So if we're practicing Mahamudra, Dzogchen or Dzogchen, then we've learned through meditation to not be pulled all the time into that area of sense consciousness, and past memories and future fantasies based on the 5 senses. We find an inner world. Now, inner is a relative world. It feels like inner when you find it. It feels like you go deep inside the mind. It's like going to the core of the mind. Sorry, I'm thinking about something. I'm wondering whether to share it or not. Do you know onions? Right? Do you know the etymology of the word onion? from its Indo-Sanskrit, what they call Indo-European etymological roots, all through the High German, the Norse, the French derivatives. In nearly every, look it up, it's really interesting. But it comes from the word, it's like union, one comes from the word one. And how the one has many, many layers. It's an amazing bit of language research, onion. And it's really interesting because in Buddhist examples, there's another one, which is the banyan trees, like the banana tree. It's all surface layers, but there is no heart. Whereas the onion, you can peel off the layers and you get down to the bit that actually makes babies, right? Makes new onions, makes onion plants at the very heart of it. That's just a thought, and that's distraction in a way. But this idea of the onion, where you can peel off the outer skins and go deeper and deeper, is so good for Dharma. Because when we understand, we find the same understanding, like impermanence, just goes deeper. And you peel off an outer layer and you find a deeper understanding. So the experience of Dharma is going deeper and deeper into your mind. You're finding the reality of your mind, the essential quality of your mind, the essential character and nature. So if we're lucky and we practice Dharma and we find this nature of mind, then this world of the senses and what's happening and what your brother's doing and your mother and your children and what's happening in Iran, Iraq, America and so on, it's still there. But it's not your whole story. It's not your whole day and what your mind's busy with. You die before you die. Does that make sense? It makes sense in lots of faiths. They talk about it as the small death. You're no longer drunk on this world, on this life's sensorial experience. It's still there, that's your karma, you have to live it, but there's something much deeper you are discovering through meditation, through shamatha, through vipassana. It just gets deeper and deeper. And you are very alone. And this is wonderful, because you come to the essential point. This whole Dharma journey is about you and ultimate reality, whatever you call it, God, Buddha nature, it doesn't matter. There is an ultimate reality. We looked at it for a year last year. Timeless, changeless, full of qualities. We looked at 64 main qualities, full of activities, not nothing. That's always been, it never changes. And this is about your relationship with what is called that. Tathagata means the word for the Buddha, became that. Somebody who became that. It's an amazing journey, but you are alone. Nothing will help you. No thing will help you. People will help you. Lamas, teachers, the Buddha's teaching will help you discover that. But before we die, we can go through this, some people describe it as a desert, where we have to let go of all the outer supports, people, friends, family, wealth, clothes, status, all the stuff of life which defines ordinary people, which matters a lot, and which when it changes breaks their hearts or makes them happy. We have to let go of all of that. So if we do it before we die, we're in a place to discover the richness which is everywhere, the love which pervades everybody. It's amazing. the peace of not depending on this person's reaction to you, or whether your bank account goes up or down, whether your health gets better or worse. That's just the details of this life. This is about you and what is forever true. So if we can do that through practice before we die, it's wonderful. So what this verse is saying, if you don't, then of course you're going to die. It's like when the sun, it has to go down, and Tibet's the land of hills and valleys. So when the sun reaches the hill in the west, then the light disappears. The sun goes down behind it. The darkness comes. So our life comes to an end. So at that time, it doesn't matter how many friends, how many relatives you've got with you, how many servants you've got. None of them can help you because your mind is going on an inner journey. It's leaving all of this. Doesn't matter what wealth you've got. It can't do a thing. It will become somebody else's wealth. In France, often the government's wealth, or your children's wealth, or whatever. It won't be yours. It's gone. Can't help you. There's only you and your mind. So it says the day must come when you must leave empty-handed. There's just you and your mind. And then, so what will happen, and this is described in the next verses, so we'll come to that when we come to it, but the body dies, you have the dying bardo experiences, and then you have the post-death bardo experiences, which are well described. And when I make the video for this talk, I'll put on links where you can access one of my former courses called Dying as Best One Can, which goes into all the details, if you're interested, about the experiences as your body is breaking up, body and mind are breaking up, the elements dissolving, the white, red, black phases of the experience, and then clear light after you die, clarity, and then the 49-day bardo in between lives. That's what we're talking about here. So it says, you leave empty-handed. What does this mean? It means it's finished. Whatever your whole life was, like me, 80 next year, 80 years of people, this house, my possessions, and all of that, gone. Gone forever. I won't see one of those people again. You, my friends, we won't see each other ever again. If you're looking at the recording of this in 2040, if it still exists, I won't be here. I'll just be some guy in the past who made a YouTube video that you came across. You'll all be gone. You won't be memories, you'll be gone. I won't remember one of you. Sorry to say, lovely as you are now to be in my life, you'll be gone. And the safety I feel because there's money in the bank will be gone, let alone the money. It's not in my life anymore. And so on, and so on. I mean, completely gone. So there our mind gets thrust after death into the everything. We're in this amazing sea of consciousness. It's like a radio station, but 100 radio stations at once. It's the everything where everyone's mind is. And how you experience that depends on your karma. It can be very wonderful. It can be very horrible. Depends how we shaped our mind when we have this wonderful, wonderful, precious human opportunity where we can make our mind reliable, stable, strong, our best friend, not our worst enemy. So it says, when you leave, you roam aimlessly. Now, bardo is bardo. It's not like anything in this life. We can say it's a bit like, but actually it's its own reality. There's just no way you can describe it. But if there's anything in this life that it's like our dream life. And you know, when somebody tells you about their dream, even a vivid dream that they remember, it's crazy, isn't it? I was in this sort of, but then all of a sudden, it's gone. I was somewhere else. Then this person came up, but then that wasn't there anymore. Then somewhere else. You know that? Does that make sense? Can you wave a hand? Dream is crazy, right? Just, this is what bardo is like. It's vividly here, it's vividly there, it's vividly that, and you don't have control. Like just now, you've got control, you can switch me off, right? You can, just with one finger, you can get rid of me, right? You say, don't like this, okay, and you can put on the TV or go out to walk in the garden. But in dream life, you don't. It just happens unless you've trained in lucid dreaming and that kind of thing. But otherwise, it just one thing happens, then something else happens, and before you know it, something else happens. And bardo is like that, very much like that. So it says, roaming aimlessly, alone, through unpredictable landscapes. You don't know what's going to happen next. The time will come when there's no telling where one goes next. Now, dreams last for seconds, even if we wake up and feel we've been in the whole world for years. Bardo doesn't stop. It's not like dreams, which last a few seconds. Bardo is a non-stop. It's exhausting. It's why we crave for rebirth at the end of it. It's so exhausting. Non-stop hallucinations. Pain and agony may be great. What it doesn't say is here, happiness may be great too, but you can't guarantee that. You just can't tell. But there'll be no way to share it. This phrase in this verse, please think about it. What is happiness if you can't share it? In our lives now, how wonderful it is, how important it is, or not, to share happiness. You know what they say, happiness shared is happiness doubled, or something like that. So whatever happens, whatever's scary, whatever is incredibly powerful, or whatever's wonderful, you're on your own. This, coming back to this point of not loneliness, but aloneness. How strong you are on your own, when it's just you and experience, you and whatever you call it, the universe. There will come that time when you will undergo such difficulties. So let's say we leave that verse there. And I should read the Tibetan. Oh dear. Not that one. Maybe that one, yeah. Min dan song rimdron e pa du. Tugit dushik namo an. Nima nupriitsela. Chimpatar. Shotap mepe duship no an. Nedu koyo mayan triwame chikpura drowi dushi. Namo ang longcha cheyang shak jak chewame lakton drowi dushi. Namo ang chame yuldu chume chikpura cham. Gadro chame dushi. Namo ang natsa zukse cheyang gotame dure chikla babdu namo ang. Okay. So the next verse tells us about the time of death. Not recognizing the progressive dissolution of the elements, or the final flaring, or mind's innate lucidity. There will come a time when you are quite lost to what to do, when sounds, colors, and lights, and peaceful and wrathful deities manifest. An evil person will feel like someone all alone, surrounded by an army. That time of tremendous panic, fear, and terror will come too. So it's very briefly mentioned here, so I won't go through a long explanation, but the first line or two, it says we don't recognize the progressive dissolution of the elements. So from the time of conception until the elements start to dissolve, just before you die, there is a body-mind inseparability. That really means what it says. You cannot separate body and mind, although sometimes you might feel like, I'm a mind. I'm the thinking bit, the conscious bit, the aware bit in a body, and your body feels like something different. Even those thoughts are produced by the body-mind inseparability. You cannot separate them. And so our body, in our ordinary language, we say the body constantly affects the mind constantly affects the body. I take my blood pressure 3 times every morning, 3 times in a row, right? 3 times in a row is quite quick. I don't know how long, but it's less than 2 minutes probably. I see how, according to my thoughts, that pressure can be 130, 140, 150, 160. This morning, first take, I was 130 something. Systole. During the second take, I started thinking about something quite strong that's happening in my life at the moment, 140 something. By the third take, I was in the 160s, right? Because those thoughts were, how can you say, stirring thoughts. So body affects mind, mind affects body in our ordinary language, but in the truth of it, you can't separate them. You can use them. So when we sit in the 7-point posture and when we breathe, especially special breathing techniques, it can have a radical effect on your mind and take you to experiences you've never had before. And then our mind and its activity can make your body sick, or it can make it healthy, and so on. So the point is that synergy of body-mind, inseparability, is characterized by the play of the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, wind, space. As we're dying, that synergy and that integrity collapses. It's been there all your life. And the collapse of that body-mind synergy, because your mind is preparing to leave this body, and it will become just a mind, a disembodied mind. That collapse has its own experiences. So when the earth element collapses, then there's physical weakness and certain signs. When the water element collapses, very often we start losing fluids from the top, the bottom. And when the fire element collapses, we feel incredibly cold no matter how much we're covered and so on. There are characteristic experiences as the elements dissolve. The wind element, when it dissolves, we have the choking breath of someone dying. Then the next thing that happens are mainly consciousness experiences. They're called the white phase, the red phase, the black phase. They can happen before death. They usually happen after physical death, when your pulse has stopped and your brain activities more or less nothing, but before what Buddhists call death, which is when your mind leaves your body. So then, but sometimes we can get the white experience before we die. And then this is the one people describe when they've been on an operating table and they've been dead for a few minutes, and they say, I saw the white light coming. And it was so beautiful, and I was moving up into this very wonderful white light. Actually, what happens when you look at it from the Buddhist yogic point of view is that there's what we call the white polarity, which is in your head. It starts to collapse towards your heart center where your awareness is. So it's not that we're going up into a white light, but a white light is coming down into us. At that time, certain emotions and reactions, the karma for them stops. It's an incredible release. It feels so beautiful. So that can happen either for some people before they die, they can describe it on their deathbed. For other people, it happens when the body has stopped and they think they're already going to heaven or something. That's followed by what's called the red phase, which is when the other polarity, which is in the bottom of our body, rises upwards. Not many people experience that, it's said, before they die, but that has its own much vaguer experiences, as the experience flickers on and off. Sometimes you're conscious, sometimes you're not. There's various feelings. Third phase is called blackout, or the black phase. There you're dead. Nobody experiences that and comes back. That's dead in Buddhist terms, although your pulse may have stopped quite some time before, your brain waves may have stopped some time before, your body may be dead, but these two polarities of white and red energy haven't met at your heart center, which is what makes the black phase happen, and which means this body experience, 5 senses through the eyes, the ears, and so all of that are finished. So this is what this is referring to. The progressive dissolution of the elements, the final flaring, that's the white, the red, and the black experiences, or then the black experience that can last a short time. It can last up to 3.5 days. It's the time when, although there's a corpse, it feels very much like the person's still in the corpse, though there's nothing going on. And then there comes a time when it really is just a piece of rotten meat, and there's no feeling of presence. It depends how sensitive you are. For some people, it's just a corpse from the moment the pulse stops and the brainwave stops, just dead. Other people feel presence. Presence of what is hard to say, but there's presence. So that can last, it says, up to 3.5 days. But at one point, the presence leaves the body. Once it's left the body, there is a moment Usually it's just a moment of meeting the purity of mind's true nature. This is mind's innate lucidity in the text. Innate lucidity is sometimes called clear light. Let's not go there, but it's a question of translation. Most people can't take it. It is incredibly scary. It's like meeting God. It's the truth behind everything. The mind runs away from it, can't take the experience. Like if somebody shone a very bright light in your face, you turn away immediately. You don't think, oh, this is an interesting bright light. If it's 500-watt halogen lamp stuck in front of your nose, you look away. You can't take it. So that's the innate lucidity for most people. If you're a good meditator, then this true nature of mind is like coming home. It's what you've longed for, it's what you've had glimpses of in your Mahamudra meditation, or long moments of. But now it's total homecoming. Just depends on how well you meditate, how long you meditate. So anyway, most people, it says, don't recognize the elements dissolving, the white, red, black phases, or mind's innate lucidity. And then you're in no man's land. You don't have your body, none of your usual references from the last life. There, you are just a mind. You are a disembodied mind. You're not located anymore. It's quite new. Just now, you are located. Can any of you relocate here next to me right now? Travel through time and space. Come and have a cup of tea. Come and share a cuppa with me right now. You are where you are. You can't do that. Can you get out of your body? Can you see through other eyes than the ones you're looking through now? Can you hear through other ears? No. You are embodied. We are so embodied, it's amazing. It's one of the things we should realize through Mahamudra, Mahasandhi practice. This amazing, limitless mind, stuck in this thing with its karmic experience. So anyway, so it says, when you're a disembodied mind, then the experiences are really strong. It's like being on drugs, but more so, sounds, colors, lights. So when we look at the details of now the in-between life experience, it's called the becoming bardo, we see all sorts of many, many stages. That's why there are 49 stages of experience. Some of them we get the opportunity to see peaceful Buddhas, wrathful Buddhas, Vidyadharas, all that kind of thing. It's described in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And there are different qualities and times of light in that. And it's like nothing we knew while we were alive. We have nobody to turn to, nothing to turn to. It's really a lot. It's like LSD on steroids. That's not a very good use of English language, because LSD is a drug and steroids are drugs. But we say on steroids to mean like, ooh, not so much more. It's like that. So it says an evil person, someone who's not got good karma, they've hurt other people a lot. At that time, they feel not just all alone, but aggressed from every side. They're really scared. And it says it can be a time of tremendous panic, fear, and terror. If it's a dream, you wake up Terrible dream, the terror probably wake you up, but not in the bardo. Is there a sense of I? Yes, there's a sense of I in this time. That's the whole point. And I hurts, I is scared. That I is disembodied. There's a vague feeling of body. It's described when we look at the details. The first few days after death, you feel like you feel now. So all of this, you feel like that. That disappears. And it's more like hallucinations. As you get closer to your next incarnation, you start feeling like how you're going to be reborn. So, not reborn because you'll be reborn as a cell. You don't feel like one cell or two cells. You feel like what you're going to become, your whole next life karma you've already made. So if you feel kind of and all shaggy and like you've got 4 legs, you're probably going to become a dog or a cat. Or if you feel seagully and sort of gliding like this over the wood, you start to feel very different. But that's very secondary, it's in the background. You feel like your emotional responses to what's happening. Some people with good karma, they feel like they've spent time in heaven. So beautiful. Unimaginably beautiful, peaceful, surrounded by good beings, good souls. And other people is their worst nightmare come true. Aggressive people, people who've hurt others. So anyway, that's what this verse is talking about. The bardos, and how people, if they've not trained for the bardo, if they've not done meditation, they don't have that stability and strength to cope with whatever comes up. It's such an amazing opportunity in this life. We learn to meditate and to accept whatever comes up in our mind, our worst fears, greatest happiness, strong memories, trauma, everything. We just learn to be strong, stable, peaceful, and to let it come, let it go. To learn to meditate like that is such a great gift. And you'll see it while you're alive. Because people around you, they get so upset by what happens. And this is life, this is karma. When it happens to you, in sickness, like me is sickness, old age and all of that, I'm living through it. Let it come and let it go. That's a gift in this life. But once we're dead and we go into the everything, and this chaos of being in the endless mind where everybody is, this ability to be peaceful, stable, let it come, let it go, to naturally feel refuge, connection with the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all these things we do in our daily practice, they are wonderful gifts for this time we are talking about now. Timrim Nangche Wosal Ngomizing Chicha Dolme Dushik Namo Ang Dra Ozer Sumj Shitro Latsokchar Niechen Miche Magi Korwata Vandrak Jiknan Chempo Namo Ang. Next verse says, led away by the terrifying, dreadful emissaries of Yama, Spontaneously appearing gods and demons will reveal your virtues and evil deeds. Lying will be no help, as all shows clearly in Yama's mirror and life book. This time, when you would deeply regret your past misdeeds, will inevitably come. You may long for merit, but there will be nowhere to buy it or borrow it. The Lord of Death will be distinguishing bright deeds from dark. If you want to have no regrets when that time comes, but are still not practicing right now, you're simply fooling yourself, missing the whole, pointless and living a hollow life. So this is about a time that comes when we die. Today we're looking at death and what happens. And there's an experience which is characterized, personalized by Yama, the Lord of Death. So if you've seen the Tibetan Wheel of Life, then you see there's Yama, got the teeth and holding up a big mirror, and you've got the 6 realms in the mirror. And it's a mirror of existence, which means what people say in English, they say, you see your whole life flash by in a few seconds. It's that kind of experience. It really happens. It really happens. Meditators will know this. I've had it happen twice in this life, at least. It really happens. And it's amazing. Things you'd totally forgotten, things you'd said to people, things you've done. It's just so true. I mean, it's like the whole story. Like it says, you can't lie. You can't say, yeah, but it was his fault or none of that. Just crystal clear. You said that, you did that, you hurt that person, you killed that animal. That 16th come up told me when I was driving him. He said, when you were young, you killed birds. Yeah. There's no yes, but, or I kill birds. It's like he saw it absolutely, each one. So it happens like that, the good and the bad. So at that time, he said, you wish you had a bit more going for you, more merit. You can't buy it, you can't borrow it. You were what you were, you did what you did. This is why we spend so much time in practice, in purification, vajrasattva practice, doing good things. All of it helps so much when this final moment comes, where even if we've done not nice things, we've hurt people very, very badly, we can fix it before we die. Fix it in a way where our own stream of consciousness knows it's fixed. You put it right inside you. Even though the person's gone, that reality's 50 years gone. While we're alive, through Dharma, through the beauty and the kindness and generosity of Lord Buddha's teaching, we can purify our karma. So when this time comes, it will be very matter of fact. It's familiar. We've been there so many times. We've gone back through our life in detail. We've realized the mistakes, we've worked with them, we've realized the blessings and tried to benefit from them. So when this time comes, it's okay. So it's characterized by the Lord of Death. Some people experience it like that. Like some people experience the truth of their mind as God and angels and powerful beings. But it's just the truth of who we were and what we did with this life. That's what we're looking at. And the regret at that time is so real. And regrets mainly because we hurt other beings. We hurt other people. and you really feel what a sick and horrible thing that was to do. Another being, it's a whole being, it's like you. And in their reality, we brought pain. We hurt them. You feel it, and you feel, how could I have done that? How could anybody do such a thing? It's very, very real. So of course we don't want to, have a traumatic death like this. Sort it out now. Practice. So it says, if you want to have no regrets when that time comes. I think there's some typos here. It says, if you want to have no regrets. Something went wrong there. When that time comes, but you're not practicing right now. You're simply fooling yourself. You're missing the whole point. You're living a hollow life. Living very superficial. Like hollow means like, what does hollow mean? Empty inside, a lot of surface. There's a surface reality. There's no inner essence. Now, okay, the next verse is, we're carrying on, you say a timeline. Approaching death, elements dissolving, different experiences, mind leaves the body, the time before the next incarnation, in the Bardo, what people call the Bardo, with peaceful, wrathful Buddhas, lights, and so on. We've done that. Now the next thing is rebirth. And so the following verses will talk about the 6 realms of existence. And so we've got 5-10 minutes to look in general before we go into the details. So I think I need to do the Tibetan for that last verse in my own way. Zokson Jedan Ranjao Drachompa. No, not that one. That's an old one. This one. Jikshin Yanga Shinje Ponyatri Lenje Ladan Drei Gedik Shit Zunji Nipen Melong Yikchun Sao Ngache Chirpi Dushik Namu Ang Gewa Turjan Nyochid Sol Kume Shinje Jalput Kanak Shinchiche Dedu Kyo Me Datara Nidrumna Rangi Raunu Dome Nyingme Yin. Yeah, so most people get reborn. How we get reborn is characterized by the quality of the experience. But generally, it's described through the 6 realms, or the 5 realms, if we put the gods and the demigods together. And what I've seen over my lifetime, some people don't take too well the teachings on the 6 realms, because there's hell and ghost realms, and some people have run a long way away from hellfire and brimstone teachings, Christian teachings, Catholic Church, and that thing. And I know in some countries they say, oh no, I left all of that and discovered Buddhism with its psychology, its common sense, and now what are they talking about? hell, you can be reborn in hell and you're going to burn, and the horrors are unimaginable, and so no, sorry, this is just, how can you say, religious terrorism. Scare the pants off you so that you'll subscribe and join up and believe and do all those things. Yeah, and I understand that, and there's a lot to it, and I've seen people react very, very strongly in teachings. So I want to say a few words. One thing is, what doesn't want to hear it is your ego. It doesn't want to think it's possible that this could happen. And then in order to poo-poo it, as they say in English, in order to say this can't be the case, or this is, some historical influence that crept into Buddhism. Where did the first ideas of heaven and hell come from? How did they get into Greece or Christianity or Buddhism? You look there about hot hells, cold hells. It's not the point. It's not the point. We're not talking about geography and places. We're talking about states of mind where you hurt beyond belief. That's all. This world can be hell for somebody. I don't know if you've ever been into the locked wards of psychiatric hospitals. I have. Some people are going through day after day, the agony in their mind that they can't get free from. Are you saying that doesn't exist? The loneliness some people feel, the abandonment, and so on. These extremes of mind, they exist. Have you been to countries where people are starving to death? I have. The fact that you can look everywhere, there's nothing to eat. You can end up eating rubbish, anything that can go in your mouth. And this exists in our world. The poverty, the children with the swollen bellies and so on. Do you know what it's like to go mad? I've seen people go mad. Are you trying to tell me this is not possible? I don't believe in hell. Come off it. We're talking about karma and where it can take you. What we do with our body, with our speech, and our mind. How we hurt other people. Look what we're doing to the natural world, the insects, the birds, and so on. Poisoning them, burning them. Here we've got these caterpillars, they're called processional caterpillars. It's an amazing thing. They follow each other, nose to tail. You get a line of, it can go up to 20 meters. And they are incredibly allergenic. People get huge rashes just through getting close to them. So lots of people douse them in petrol, set fire to them. And people do this. They used to have glue traps here to catch birds. The bird would be stuck until it died. Then people cook them. Humans do all sorts of things, and the karma comes back. So it's just, how can you say? It's so cheap, I think is the word that comes to my mind. When somebody says, oh, I can't believe in hell. It means they've never thought They never looked around them. It means I don't want to believe in hell, which is part of, human stupidity. Hell is not a place, it's a state of mind. Lonely ghosts, hungry ghosts, that's a physical reality, but it's also a state of mind. So sometimes some Buddhist teachers, Western teachers mainly, they like to say this is just a psychological analogy for the human condition, right? Inside each of us now, sometimes life is like hell, it's like the Deva realms because we are so sensorially satisfied, our mind is at peace, so that's like the God realms. Sometimes we've got a lot of stuff, but we're jealous of people who've got a lot of stuff too, more better than us. It's like, it's all human psychology. That's true. We've got all the 6 realms in us. But the Buddha's teaching, as far as all the masters I've known, the really good ones, have said, is that these exist as states. I mean, we can see humans, animals, amongst our fellow humans on this planet. Look at the different worlds they live in. Some, they're so hungry. They're so lonely. Others, they have so many friends, such a good time, so much to eat. Some, even though they've got a lot materially, their mind is disturbed, very disturbed, and there's no way to get round it. Medication doesn't really help, and so on. Just look at the human realm, and then look at the animals. They're real beings, if you've ever been close to an animal, dog, cat, fox, or anything like that, they're in their world, just like us. And look at the lovely birds, they fly. Isn't that beautiful? Yet they're a bag of nerves. You look at birds there all the time, looking, where's the cats? Where's the hawks? Very nervous. That's their world. Fear for your life and whatever goes on. This huge variety we can see all around us. And to think it stops there, in what we perceive with our limited senses. Wow. So people who say, oh no, I can't accept heaven, hell, I think they're really quite daft. And it's certainly a lot for us to think about because it's in, we're in this section of the text that talks about it. The coming week is the time to think about it. So for today, we will stop there, and if I can find it, what have I done with it? We'll do the dedication. So everything that was good, meaningful, positive, helpful for you, while it's still sort of alive and rich and pure, we share it with everybody. Yeah, you got the transmission for this verse. I think so. If not, I'll give it next time. I prostrate to the Dharmakaya, the union of all the Buddhas of the 3 times, and to the one who gazes upon the 6 kinds of beings, Chimresic, 11-faced and all-pervading, or one-faced and 4-armed, or however Chimresic is, and to awesomely impressive and majestic Amitabha, Om Mani Padme Hori, Om Mani Padme Hori, Om Mani Padme Hori. Through the quintessence of all Dharma, in 6 syllables, may a cloud of offerings appear. May they be presented to the peerless guide Chimresic and to Shakyamuni, king of the sages, crowning glory of all the Sakyas, and to an ocean of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Arhats in the 10 directions, and to all our Kagyu Lamas, Om Mani Padme Huri. May the fulfillment of the wishes of the former Buddhas and the completion of the accumulation of the future Buddhas and the long life prayers of the present Buddhas all be made manifest through the 6 syllables, Om Mani Padme Huri. All those who have a karmic link with me, my father and mother, my teachers, relatives, friends, all who place their hopes in me and rely on me, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way, grant them your blessing, they may be reborn in Dewa Chen. All those who've been my benefactors and asked me not to forget them, all the kind benefactors I promised not to forget, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way, grant them your blessing, they may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. All of the dead for whom lamas have been asked to say prayers, all those who passed away from this life and of whose possessions I received a share. Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way, grant them your blessing, they may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. All the artisans who make the Dharma goods, such as the representations of the body, speech and mind of all the Buddhas, and those whose livelihood involves the belongings of the Lama or the Sangha, or the ransom obtained through selling sacred images, or from goods folk offer out of faith, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way, and grant them your blessing, they may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. The dead I've heard about or seen with my own eyes, and all those in the 3 dimensions of conditioned existence who passed away, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way, grant them your blessing, they may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. All those who've been murdered, who died from starvation, who perished on high mountain passes, or were drowned, or those who wander in the bardo, accompanied by much sin, no virtue, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way, grant them your blessing, they may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. The most kind mother cow, whose milk and yogurt I consume, all the animals mass farmed or otherwise cruelly exploited by humans, all the animals whose flesh and blood I've eaten, the bees and insects on whose labor human life depends. Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way and grant them your blessing, they may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. All the pack animals overburdened with loads they can hardly bear, those beasts who are beaten while ridden, and those that wouldn't budge and had their noses pierced for pulling with a rope, plough animals also, all the beasts I've exploited in past lives, wherever they're now reborn, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way, grant them your blessing, they may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. Those who've committed the 10 unvirtuous actions and the 5 immeasurable sins of no reprieve, or the 5 sins almost as great, all those with such bad karma, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way, grant them your blessing, they may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. Those in the hells, craving spirits, animals, jealous semi-gods, gods, and humans, all sentient beings, in the 3 dimensions of conditioned existence. Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way. Grant them your blessing. They may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. All those who live in the 4 elements of earth, water, fire, and air, whether in bodily form or formless, small or large, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way. Grant them your blessing. They may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. Rulers, monsters, and citizens steeped in corruption, bad people who are shameless, deceitful, and hypocritical, those with ill will in their hearts, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way and grant them your blessing. They may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. Infinite as all the cosmic systems in the 10 directions, all beings as difficult to reckon as the unfathomed deeps, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way and grant them your blessing. They may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. Beings who live in each province of this world, or anywhere on similar planets under their suns, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way and grant them your blessing. They may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. Om Mani Padme Huri. Om Mani Padme Huri. Om Mani Padme Huri. So, thank you. That was our session with its dedication. And so it's your time for comments and what you'd like to add, or questions and answers. I do have one from Mariano, who's now not Mariano, he's a monk now. But anyway, he said in this prayer that we do as a dedication, we are praying for rebirth in Dewa Chen. It says, through your blessing, lead them on the way to rebirth in Dewa Chen. And could I say a few words about, well, Tibetan is Dewa Chen. Sanskrit is Sukha Vati. And Sukha means bliss, Dewa means bliss. So it means a blissful place, place of bliss. And so what is Dewa Chen? Dewa Chen is a state of mind. It is a pure land. It's an unusual pure land created through the incredible merit of and power of Amitabha. There's a story of somebody who became Amitabha, and their promise was to make the pure land of Sukhavati, Dewa Chen. And you see, there are pure lands and pure lands. It's hard for us to imagine. I mean, it's like nothing in this world, because they are pure states of mind, each with their own qualities and related to different practices. They are very, very hard to attain, because it means your mind needs to have been incredibly purified from the heavy karma, the medium karma. We get 9 levels of karma. So much of that needs to have been done and dusted out the way, taken out of your mind stream forever. You need meditation experience through shamatha, through vipassana, and all of that channeled through bodhicitta. So there are different pure lands related to different levels of bodhisattva being and so on. Very, very hard for us to attain. It means a pure mind. It doesn't mean that geographically there's a land somewhere. You could never go to it with your Star Trek machine or whatever. It's not a somewhere, it's a state of mind. So Dewa Chen is an exception. It's like a Pure Land in what it is. It's not reached through your own achievement. It's attained through actually 4 causes. And when we study Dewa Chen, we look at the 4 causes for rebirth in Dewa Chen. One of them is a bodhicitta. We need to really have bodhicitta up and running in our being. Aspiration bodhicitta, practice bodhicitta. So bodhicitta needs to be there. The second one is we need a certain accumulation of virtue. We need to be doing good things with our days and our hours and our body, speech and mind. So we need some of that. The third cause is to know about Dewa Chen and Sukhavati, to believe in it, to make it more and more where you want to go. It's a bit like planning a holiday. You look up lots of things and then you think, no, I want to go there. So when I go there, what's it like? What can I visit? We need to know about it, get a feel for it, make it our intention to be reborn there. And then the fourth thing is to dedicate. When we do a dedication, we dedicate whatever goodness we've made to that end. We channel all the power we've got into rebirth in Dewa Chen. So it's like a Pure Land. So when our mind dies, it goes there. It's like being in a Pure Land, and that gives us an opportunity to really practice pure Dharma. So such an accelerated and unhindered way. What's it like? Well, if we can leave the classical teachings to Ken's examples, on the road to India, so I'm going back to 1970, there's this amazing thing. The Mercedes motor car company delivered Mercedes to Sri Lanka. They didn't send their own drivers because then they'd have to bring them back by boat or by aeroplane. People didn't go by plane so much in those days. So you could drive a Mercedes from Germany to Sri Lanka with your petrol paid. And so, that was, I don't know how they vetted people, but you got a comfortable, beautiful, petrol-paid ride to Sri Lanka. Now, many of the people who did this, will pick up hitchhikers. So a lot of people I met, they got a ride in a Merc, part of the way to India. Beautiful luxury. They didn't have the money to buy a Mercedes. They didn't have the money to travel in that luxury. But through the coming together of the goodness of the Mercedes company and the person who got the job to drive the car, and your own luck to be in the right place at the right time with your thumb up, just when one of those came by, all of that came together, and for a day or two or whatever, I know one of the drivers who got the same passenger for a couple of days, and he said, "Not you again." Because they kind of dropped them off and left them to spend the night somewhere, and then the next morning they're standing there. Not you again. Anyway, through the coming together of those circumstances, there is a luxury that you've not earned yourself. But through the coming together of all sorts of kind factors, you can experience it. Dewa Chen is like that. Through the immense love and care of Amitabha, there is this state of mind where you are safe and protected, and you can practice Dharma. If your bodhicitta, your bodhisattva mind, your caring mind is enough, and if you've done enough good things, And if you're dedicating your merit enough, that's how you get reborn in Dewa Chen. And from there, you can go to the Bodhisattva levels. That's a very kind of brief version. When we study Amitabha, we look at that in much more detail.
Yen?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Anne.
Yeah.
I have a question. And it has to do with the moment of death and what happens after or immediately after. 5 years ago, I was present when my father died, and he died in hospital. So almost immediately they took the body away. And I'm not sure whether that has an impact on the person who is just died or not, or whether at that moment it doesn't really matter anymore. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that varies incredibly with the person who died, how long there was called the black phase, the blackout phase of experience. I mean, blackout's blackout. You're not conscious of anything, anything at all. And it's only emerging from that. You can still be in your body and aware, either from within the body or like hovering above it. So there can be an experience of what the doctors and nurses are doing to you, or not. You could just be blacked out until they've done what they need to do. Maybe you're packed away, maybe you're in a freezer somewhere or a fridge. And that you can't tell. It depends on how long the blackout period lasts. What Tibetans do, and what would be ideal if it were possible in our modern world, would be to have nothing but peace and quiet and prayers around the dead person for 3 days. So that whenever they come out of the black period, what's all around them is people praying, is people peacefully caring. So they try, they don't want weeping and wailing, people attached to them, and so on. It's just the perfect, as best as possible environment for their mind to then leave that body. And, in Tibet, what you've got in the prayers, and if you've got a Lama who's good enough, you've got a presence that can communicate with the dead mind to tell them this is what's happening now, you're dead. And don't get involved with your body, it's finished. Don't get involved with the people. The mind is really there helping the person move away, go beautifully into a new space. In our modern world, we can't do that. I mean, it's very, very hard. You have to do your best. And I think it varies incredibly with the circumstances. I would imagine that the circumstances are partly to do with one's own karma as well.
Okay.
So that even if one's dead in a chaotic place, your mind can be peaceful if you've got that kind of a mind. And even if you're dead in a peaceful place, your mind can be chaotic and fearful. I think there is no one size fits all kind of answer to this. But what we can do, our best, is, it's not a very Buddhist word, but it's the right word, it's intercession. We pray to Chenrezig, Tara, Amitabha to help them. It's not a good idea to try and help them directly, because there you are taking, you have a connection with somebody, So they can be very aware of you, but then you need a mind that's got good enough, stable enough meditation to actually carry them where they need to go. It's a huge responsibility, and only if you can do it, and how can you say, been approved to do it by people who know what they're doing. We don't try and do it ourselves. We open the door through our connection with them to the purity of Amitabha, Chinrezig, all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas. We pray for them to help, and through our connection, then they get connected to where the help can really come from.
Thank you.
And I think there can be quite a degree of flexibility, and that's easier if people are actual Buddhists and leave kind of instructions about what to do as I'm dying and after my death.
Yeah.
But these days, I mean, certainly in the UK, hospitals are always more difficult, but in hospices, for everybody, they do their best to have a calm, compassionate, caring atmosphere, whether the person has a faith of any description or none, at the time of their death. So it doesn't have to be that the body is taken away immediately, but you do have to leave some instructions about that.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that's an improving area.
Yeah.
But in some circumstances. But I mean, just death is so varied. I live near a motorway, and I've got a niece who's in the fire brigade, who goes to the accidents, and the stuff that she sees almost on a daily basis, you can die in so many different ways.
And you mentioned the white experience, which you said was quite analogous to what people describe it as sort of near-death experiences.
Yeah.
I suppose I've got two questions, partially related. What is the Buddhist view of the other sort of more detailed near-death experiences where people say they've sort of gone to places and so on, but they're obviously not gone past that right stage? Also, what is the role of or benefit of devotion to a teacher or lama? So in that part of the
I think if somebody has real devotion to a teacher or a lama, that devotion is going to open doors of experience which come from what we call Dhammadhatu, which come from the timelessly pure mind, one way or another. So if it's that white phase of experience, what happens is that so much of our brain activity is about the brain activity that's related to fear and hostility and aggression shuts down. That's why people feel so wonderfully peaceful and liberated. It's because those things are actually linked to the brain and synapses, and your biology, and that part of it is collapsing. So if you've got devotion at that time, then it's, how can you say, as far as I can tell, and I'm not an expert in these things, it's boosted, it's helped. This sudden peacefulness, an expansive feeling, and just a feeling of purity and light. If you're connected to your guru, and of course the guru by the very definition is the lineage, the connection to Dharmakaya, then you should have a better experience. So then, if it's the white phase before the red phase before the black phase, that's fantastic. You're well on your way. if it's the white phase, but you're coming back, then you have to deal with the disappointment. I remember being there when somebody woke up from a devotional white phase, so disappointed to come back to this life. They were dissolving into their teacher's heart. It was so wonderful. And then, no, back. I'm real, like disappointment, because it was so perfect. I think all these things around death, I think there's this, it's so individual. There's so much going on, you can't just say this. And especially me, I got very limited knowledge. Okay, so maybe that's it for today. And we're back again. What day are we? What's the date? 23rd. So next week is the 30th. Yeah, we're back again with this topic next weekend. So have a lovely week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello and goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you very much.